Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Oh boy. The sequel to the original Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, released in 1999, and at one point in time, this was actually the third highest grossing film of 1999 as a whole. The entire kind of top 10 list, at the bottom you had The Blair Witch Project, then in ascending order you had Runaway Bride, The Mummy, Big Daddy, Tarzan, the animated Disney version, The Matrix, Toy Story 2, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, The Sixth Sense, and Star Wars The Phantom Menace. So, yeah, okay, Star Wars and The Phantom Menace and The Sixth Sense beat Austin Powers, but he ended up beating Toy Story 2, one of the most beloved films in Pixar's back catalogue. Even The Matrix he managed to beat. So, what exactly happens in this film? Well, I can't talk about the entire thing because it involves several bad words that I really don't want to get restricted on here, so I apologise if some elements of the plot are a little vague. The film starts off pretty much where it left off, with Austin Powers enjoying his honeymoon with his new wife, Vanessa Kensington, played by Elizabeth Hurley. However, she's gotten rid of pretty quickly as it's revealed she was actually a robot from his arch nemesis Dr. Evil, also played by Myers. And once he realises that Vanessa was a robot and she's destroyed, Powers seems sad for about a minute, but then quickly dives back into single life. However, things become more complicated when his arch nemesis Dr. Evil, as I said, played by Myers, after reuniting with his son, Scott, played by once again by Seth Green, he discovers that his kind of henchmen and the like have managed to build a time portal, and he travels back to the 1960s where he commissions another kind of character played by Mike Myers, basically an overweight Scottish gentleman. He sends him back to extract Austin Powers' mojo from his body while he's in cryogenic stasis, which means at the present day, i.e. the 1990s, Austin now no longer has his mojo, which causes a few problems for him. So, Basil Exposition, who's kind of head of the British Secret Service, played once again by Michael York, sends Powers back through time to kind of get his mojo back and ultimately stop Dr. Evil. Along the way, he encounters several other characters, including, as I said, Scott Evil, Frau Farbacina, played once again by Mindy Sterling, who I actually didn't realise at the time until I saw this movie properly that she's actually the mean teacher Miss Briggs from iCarly. I might have mentioned that last time, but I didn't realise that. Also got the return of Dr. Evil's number 2, named number 2, played at first by Robert Wagner and then by Rob Lowe in the past. One of his henchmen named Mustafa, played by Will Ferrell, and also Dr. Evil's henchmen have managed, while they previously managed to give Dr. Evil a son with Scott Evil, played as I said by Seth Green, they've now managed to effectively clone Dr. Evil, except 1/8 his size, resulting in a character known as Mini-Me, played by Vern Troyer, who, I'm not sure if Vern Troyer actually has a full line in this particular. I mean, I see in bits and pieces where he speaks, and most of the time he's just silent. And that is kind of playing up aspects of the film, like Dr. Evil's obsession with himself, like even over his own son. He would rather hang out with a miniature version of himself than his own child. Which does lead to some funny jokes here and there. I mean, as I said with the last film, I wasn't necessarily sure if this was necessarily the kind of comedy film for me. That there were one or two jokes in the previous one that I thought went on like maybe a minute too long, and I think that's kind of pumped up more here. Like the famous one that everybody remembers is when Dr. Evil's rocket takes off from his island, and people are describing how phallic the rocket ship looks, and you cut to various different parts of the conversation, so it just happens to describe what it looks like. It's one that's shaped like a giant pecker. Oh, where? Oh, wait, that's not a woodpecker. It looks like someone's privates. We have reports of an unidentified flying object. It's a long, smooth shaft, complete with 2 balls. What is that? I feel like it's kind of one of those pieces that does go on a little bit too long, but then again, I think that's part of the fun of it. But aside from Mike Myers, the other big character they introduced in this one is a secret agent from the 1960s known as Felicity Shagwell, played by Heather Graham. And I have seen some people criticise her that they didn't need to replace Elizabeth Hurley. They could have just as easily kind of kept things going here. She's obviously kind of supposed to be kind of the eye candy, but then she does kind of develop throughout the film, which is kind of nice. And by the end, I do feel like she has come quite a long way. As I said, there were moments that I felt kind of went on a bit too long, or some moments I thought were repeated. Like, in this film, there's also a bit where both her and Powers get captured and locked in a room inside a volcano, and whereas the first film, it was kind of like they were in a room with man-eating sharks. This time it's kind of lava coming in. It did feel a little bit repeaty, but at the same time they perfected the formula of it. And the humour, I do think, works very well in this film. Like, when Dr. Evil reveals his big plan to set up a giant laser on the moon and then use that laser as a satellite, basically use the moon as a satellite, which it is, to basically circle and then use the laser to destroy various cities, starting with Washington DC. I do like how Scott kind of laughs at it, going, he's using basically a moon object and a giant laser to destroy things. Like, rip off! To which, yeah, I think we can all see that. But given that Star Wars, well, one of the Star Wars films managed to beat this film, I think it makes it a little funnier. So, The Spy Who Shagged Me, I do think it's a step up from the previous film, and as I said, it was the third highest grossing film of 1999, so can't complain too much. There was also one other moment in the film that I felt was a little awkward, which is that once Dr. Evil has stolen Powers' mojo, he drinks it drinks part of it, and then proceeds to have a moment with Frau, which, I don't know, to me felt a little off. I mean, to quote the film entirely, when this scene happened, I was just like, quoting Dr. Evil, I was going, right. But The Spy Who Shagged Me is a step up from the previous film, and I do understand now why people love this film series so much. As I've said multiple times, it was the third highest grossing film in 1999, so evidently something happened here that people loved. But they would ultimately get another film following up in the early 2000s with Goldmember. What do I think of that? Well, I'll have to wait and see. Until then, see ya.